love the performance of the Gender Reveal Party. It's been such a wonderful and exciting journey for me. I think it's a fantastic show. I think I love it. Just a couple of things before we get started. Did want to make a content note that the show does contain references to sexual assault and suicidal ideation, so please be aware of that. If you enjoy the show tonight and you want to kind of keep up with the latest of what's happening with the Gender Reveal Party, there is a mailing list sign-up sheet there on the table that you can hit on the way out. Put your name and email there. We'll keep you up to date with the latest shows that are happening. Wanted to also give a shout out. There's a great article today in Lawrence Business Magazine. Some of you have it at your tables. If not, there are a couple of copies over there. So big thanks to Stephen Herzog and Liz Wetslander for that. It's a really great article. I think really encapsulates kind of the process that we went through in terms of putting this play together. So I won't keep, one last thing, since I'm holding it in my hand, I should always remember this. Please make sure your cell phones are on silent so we do not disturb the performance as it is occurring. And with that, Jay Pryor and the Gender Reveal Party. Enjoy!
Hey! Welcome! Welcome to the Gender Reveal Party. Before we go any further, I want to be clear that you know where you are. This is the Gender Reveal Party. We're all going to have gender revealed to you in ways you haven't thought about. It might even blow your mind. This is the Gender Reveal Party, which is essentially the story of my life. Born a little girl in 1966 to this gorgeous figure you see before you today. The Gender Reveal Party, where after 27 years of LGBTQ education and activism, sharing my heart out, hoping to transform and love the homophobia and transphobia out of you. Today I'm taking the gloves off, telling it down and dirty, raw and real, and hoping to have a little silliness and fun with you along the way. Welcome to the Gender Reveal Party. So, now some of you may have attended a gender reveal party in the past. If you've attended a gender reveal party, would you raise your hand? Anybody? All right. Was it a boy or a girl? Who wants to say? How about you? Boy or girl?
Nope.
For the party? You don't remember? Wow, that was a heck of a party, wasn't it? Goodness. How about you, ma'am? Was it a boy or a girl? Do you remember? Yeah. You. And how did they reveal the gender of this child? They cut a bomb. They cut a cake. Usually how it works, folks, if you're not familiar with gender reveal parties, it's a new thing these days where pregnant young women have a party to reveal the gender of the child. Usually they cut a cake, and if it's blue, it's first prize. It's a boy. But let's get real, people. This is not a gender reveal party. This is a genital reveal party. Yes, a genital reveal party. You get all dressed up to go to a party about an unborn baby's junk. It's a genital reveal party. And I understand. I mean, once we know what it is, then we know how to talk to it, right? Well, just so you know, this is the gender reveal party, not the... Wait a minute. Did you come here for genitals? Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Every trans person knows that what you all want to know is what's in my pants. But before we get into my vagina, let's step back into my mother's. It's 1966, and I'm about to come on the scene. Let me tell you a little bit about what I was born into. First of all, my town is 1 square mile big. My dad is one of the 2 grocers in the town, and he has a butcher shop in his store. So he's a grocerman and a butcher, and he also happens to be the mayor, run uncontested for up to over 30 years. If you need a reference, you might think of it like Andy Taylor in Mayberry. You remember how every little old lady came to Andy for everything? Well, every little old lady in my town came to my dad for everything. So he's Andy, and I'm Opie. Only I have 8 siblings. There's 4 boys and 4 girls. And I broke the tie. Sort of. They called me Janet. Genitals female. Gender identity, little girl. The most vivid memory I have of being a little girl is being lifted up out of the bed of my molester. Too soon? It's one of those memories with no emotion. I remember watching from the corner of the room, and I just remember the clip in my head was his wife came in, and she was really angry, and I was small enough that I could stand up on top of the bed, and she picked me up and put me down. I don't remember where I went after that. I don't remember if it was the first time or the last time in his bed. I just don't remember. My experience is there's lots of little girls who grew up in the 60s and 70s who have memories like that. By the time I was in elementary school, I was full-on tomboy. I had a uniform, just jean shorts and underwear. No shirt, no shoes. Pretty much every boy and every tomboy in my town dressed exactly like that. I remember waking up on a Saturday morning or a summer day and just throwing on my jean shorts and feeling like, I'm awesome, I'm dressed for the day. I heard the phrase early, because you're a girl, it used to ring in my head. You can't shoot that gun because you're a girl. You can't play football because you're a girl. You can't ride motorcycles because you're a girl. I figured out pretty quick that if I wanted to do the things I loved, I would have to be persistent and tough. I earned my way into the football field by being annoyingly persistent and able to dish out anything they could throw at me. But it wasn't until third grade that I finally got put up against somebody. You see, I'd been privy to this culture in my town where the older boys would decide who they wanted to see put up against who, or who they wanted to see fight who. It was actually kind of like the first Fight Club. But I was in third grade, and I remember vividly that day when they put Bobby Joe up against me. And I knew that they were trying to humiliate Bobby Joe. And I knew that the worst thing that could happen to Bobby Joe was to get an ass whooping from a girl. But I also didn't mind doing the ass whooping. I loved to fight. I loved to play football, and Army was my favorite game. Genitals, female. Gender identity, tomboy. Now remember, while I'm doing all this tomboying, I'm also being classically trained female. Classically trained female. Now honey, don't sit like that. Sit with your legs together. Classically trained female. Janet, get in here and finish these dishes. Classically trained female. Folding clothes with my mom while my brothers are doing nothing. Wondering, why can't men wipe themselves? Why do they have shit stains in their underwear? Why? Classically trained female. So things were pretty good till about 6th grade. And in 6th grade, all my friends came back to school as aliens. Seriously, the summer before this, they had their shirts off and were playing football with me all along. And all of a sudden, they came back to school, and most of them were wearing purses and wearing bras, and in their purses was makeup. To add insult to injury, in the middle of the year, my mom decided it was time for me to get a training bra because apparently these things need to be trained. And I find myself spread eagle in the middle of J.C. Penney's with a bra getting strapped on over my clothes. I was humiliated. And worst, it seemed like all the other girls just seemed to know what to do. And I was clueless. And according to one of the moms, you weren't a woman until you'd started your period. So that was the conversation of the day. Who'd started their period or who was about to. So here I am, 6th grade, no period. 7th grade, no period. 8th grade, I used to have a sister that liked to come home, and when she did, she would beg me to put makeup on my face. I don't know what her motive was. I think she thought if I saw how pretty I looked, that maybe I'd feel better about myself. But she would beg me and beg me. Finally, I'd say yes. And she'd put makeup on my face. And when she was done, the whole family would gather around and say, "Oh, isn't she pretty?" Because you know, when you put eyeliner on me, obviously my eyes do pop. Freshman year, no period. Finally, the end of my freshman year, I'm in algebra class. I just know. "Mr. Holmes, can I go to the bathroom?" "Go on ahead." I get into the girls' room. Sure enough, I knew what was going to happen. We've been talking about this for years. So I get some toilet paper, put it down in my granny panties. What are you, a fancy girl with bikinis or something? Get it up. It was a very special day for me because it was my first debate and forensics tournament. And we were going to get to leave school early that day. And my mom had sewed me a new suit. It was a corduroy, one of those straighter down skirts with a blazer and with a button-down shirt on under that blazer. It was the most masculine piece of clothing I'd ever owned. I was feeling studly. Then I started my period. So I go to my forensics teacher, who's a woman, and explain this to her, and she tells me, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. I think, okay. So we all get on the bus to leave, and before we leave our town, sure enough, they swing into the local IGA. And my forensics teacher gets off the bus and goes inside. She comes back with a paper bag with a box in it and hands it to me. Thanks. I think the redness finally left my face when we pulled into the parking lot of the school where we were going to debate. I waited till every other kid got off the bus before I even looked in the bag. Once I looked in there, there weren't as many things in there as I thought. I mean, these must be huge. And I don't know what to do with them. I don't carry a purse. How am I going to do this? So I put one in each of my blazers, thinking I might need two. Had a poofy blazer walking off the bus, but that worked out well. So I go into the girls' room and pull one of these things out, and sure enough, it's tri-folded. So I open it up, and bam, it pops open like a life raft and knocks me off. Seriously, though, these things are huge. They're this thick and this wide, with a giant strip on the back. So I strip it off, and I put it down in my granny panties, and I got my pants coming up, then I got the hose. I get this thing going, and I still have one over here, so I'm a little lopsided. I'm trying to figure out, how do you walk in this thing? I mean, it's kind of like a saddle. Oh, it's like a saddle. Oh, that's how you do it. And that's how I rode into my womanhood. That summer, I grew like a boy. I grew 5 inches and gained 2 shoe sizes. I went back to school the next year with hips, ass, and size C tits. You might guess that life got a little different. Also around the same time, I should tell you that this is the first time that I made out with a girl. And I'd been kissing boys since I was in 6th grade. That was no big deal. But when I kissed this girl, it was like fireworks went off, like in the movies. And I had this moment where I thought, oh, that's what's wrong with me. I'm gay. And then I thought, oh, fuck, I'm gay. Opie can't be gay. Opie cannot be gay. No way. Cannot be gay. Did I mention the big family? Yeah, they're really Catholic. My dad prays the rosary every day. Every Sunday, he is a lectern at church. My mom is the president of the Altar Society, and all my siblings are all over CYO. In fact, the family was the choir. Opie can't be gay. So I doubled down on Jesus. And I got militantly anti-gay. When I was 14 years old, I called a radio station to say that all gay people should be shot. I used to say I wouldn't walk across the street to piss on a queer if they were on fire. And I meant it. Now, I'd had the same boyfriend since 7th grade, and the Holy Virgin Mary Act was not making him very happy. So by my junior year, he breaks up with me. So now, I'm sad, freaked out that I'm gay, and I'm starting to get suicidal. My junior year of high school, I drove my parents' car 100 miles an hour down a country road, and I flipped it. I was so angry when I came out without a scratch. I thought, fuck this Virgin Mary bullshit. I'm going to go with the other Mary. Mary Magdalene is way more fun. You see, it was not safe for me to be out as a lesbian in my town, but being a slut had its advantages. I remember the beginning of my senior year when a friend of mine came to me and said that someone had asked her if I was gay. I said, what'd you say? She said, Janet Pryor, she's the biggest slut I know. And I thought, it's working. Now, don't forget, I'm still being classically trained female. By 14, I was babysitting 4 kids, ages 10, 6, 5, and 2. By the time their parents came home, not only were they all in bed asleep, but the house was picked up and tidied. Classically trained female. Also by now, I know at least 3 casserole recipes that will feed 10 people each, and each one of them is made with Campbell's cream of mushroom soup. Classically trained female. And also by now, I've had several conversations with other girls and women wondering why. Why do you have skid marks in your underwear? Why can't you clean yourselves? Classically trained female. It's my senior year, New Year's. I'm so drunk I can barely stand up. The guy I lost my virginity to comes along with a buddy in a pickup truck. And I get in the truck with him. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. But somewhere along the line, I passed out. I remember them carrying me into the house. And then I remember waking up with one of them on top of me. And then I remember waking up with another one on top of me. And then I remember waking up with one trying to enter me from behind, and I punched him. And then I remember waking up naked by a toilet, vomiting. And then I remember having to get up and ask them to give me a ride back to my car. When I got back to the place where I was staying, I told my friends that it felt like I had just been raped. They reminded me that I was the one that got in the truck with them. Classically trained female. A year of suicidal ideation later, I landed myself in a psychiatric unit. Now, that was the best thing that ever happened to me for a number of reasons, but for our story tonight, it's when I met my first butch dyke. I remember standing up at the nurse's station waiting for my meds and hearing the elevator door open, ding. I turned around, It was like Fonzie just stepped out. She had black motorcycle boots and black jeans on and a white t-shirt, and she had her sunglasses clipped into her shirt. She had a motorcycle jacket on and a helmet. She looked both ways and just walked, and I just followed her. Turns out her girlfriend was in the hospital for depression, and the 2 weeks that they were there, I spent as much time as I could with that lesbian couple. And that butch dyke was the first person who ever said to me, "Kid, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just gay." I'm just gay? You mean I'm not a sexual deviant? You mean I'm not going straight to hell? I'm just gay? Wow, that's a game changer. Genitals female, gender identity, butch dyke, and happy. Part of my care plan was that I was not allowed to move back to my hometown, so I moved to Lawrence, Kansas, in with my generous sister. Here in Lawrence, there was a bookstore called Spinster's Books. It was run by a co-op of women, mostly lesbians. I remember walking in the door and somebody said, "Hey, who's the new baby butch?" And I was home. I couldn't believe how comfortable I felt with these people. The older femmes loved to tease me because they could make my face just go red immediately. I knew nothing of anything, let alone lesbian sex. I used to have this one older femme that I had a huge crush on, and when she would walk with me, she would take my arm. It made me feel like I was 10 feet tall. She nicknamed me Jay, and one time she wrote me a note and spelled it out, J-A-Y, and I was Jay ever since. There weren't very many of us, but we'd find each other. We were desperate to see ourselves in the media, so we'd get together and have potlucks and rent this B movie called Desert Hearts that we would watch over and over again. And then later when The Hunger came out, we would wait with bated breath for that scene where Catherine Deneuve and Susan Sarandon make out. It was so hot. And then in 1990, my dad got sick. I went home at Christmas time. I wanted to make sure that he and I were complete with each other. We hadn't always gotten along. It was Christmas Eve and midnight mass, and my dad didn't want to go to mass, so I knew something was really wrong. So I had volunteered to stay home with him. After all my siblings left, I said to my dad, "It seems like you might be dying." And he said, "Yeah, but I'm worried about you." I said, "Worried about me?" He said, "Kid, I've been here for every kid's first mortgage. I've been here for every kid's first kid. But when I die, you're on your own financially. I said, I can handle it, Dad. It's okay. And he said, well, God damn it, Janet, then get your education. And so I promised him I would. My dad died 3 months later. So I promised my dad on his deathbed that I would get my education. It took me about 1.5 years to get the money together, then the confidence. And the thing is, I didn't know any butch dykes who were educated. Every butch I knew was like me and worked a blue-collar job. So I figured I better fem up a little bit. So I grew my hair out. I asked my sister for some makeup tips. I donned a power suit. And in 1992, Janet Pryor started university. Genitals female, gender identity, power lesbian. I almost immediately got connected to the gay student organization, and I started sharing my story of being a suicidal youth and seeing what a difference my story could make if I shared it, and I was hooked. I was so into the activism and being a leader. It was kind of a cool time to be gay then. I mean, it was 5 years before Ellen would come out, but she'd already been on Johnny Carson with a mullet. We knew who she was. And we were so blessed by Katie Lang when she came out with Constant Craving Means I Love Pussy. Craving. Constant craving has always been. Yay, Katie. We appreciate her. Thank you. So I was having a blast in college. The academics were a little hard for me, but I loved the activism and I loved the atmosphere. We had just finished Pride, and I was now a leader in the organization. It was a little bit of a stressful time. Finals were coming up. And I was taking a class called Human Sexuality. And it was one of those classes where the class was bigger than my whole town. I remember crowding into the entryway one day, and I smelled this barbershop cologne I hadn't ever smelled before, and then I kind of got bumped, and then bam, I was back in that room again. Only this time, I was terrified. And I was frozen. And I flashed, and I just kept seeing it. And then somebody bumped me, and I left. And I went home. And I tried to just, smoke a bowl and blow it off. But it was like I had opened a door or something, because the next thing I knew it, one of them was on top of me, and then another one's on top of me, and the shame and the guilt and the regret, I skipped class for the next 2 weeks. And then I sought out a therapist. And she started teaching me about the brain and trauma and how it works. We started working on forgiveness. Forgiveness for them. Forgiveness for me. Forgiveness for my body. For every time it betrays me when I smell that barbershop cologne. And then they put me in a group. My name is Janet Pryor, and I'm a survivor. Fuck that! I'm not a survivor. I'm a thriver. I don't like this. I don't want to be here. But I stayed, and I listened. And I got grateful to be among these women. My name is Janet Pryor, and I am a survivor. Genitals female. Gender identity woman. In 1995, a group of student activists got to go to the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force Conference in Dallas, Texas, and I got to be among them. It was an honor as a young activist to get to go to a national event. The first night there, they threw a dance for us. And almost immediately upon me getting there, the smokingest, hottest femme came across the dance floor. She was in heels and a skirt, and remember, this is the 90s, so everybody was wearing a mullet and a flannel shirt. So, wow, she was gorgeous. And as low as the issues I've had with my self-esteem, I never had trouble stepping to the ladies. So I stepped, and she stepped. And we had a great weekend together. And somewhere along the line, she asked me if I identified as a butch. And I said, yeah, I do. She said, so what's with the makeup and the hair choices? And I told her, well, I thought I had to dress this way to be successful. I mean, even Katie Lang, you never see her. She's always in a women's blazer and has makeup on. I'm pretty sure Katie's not at home going, honey, where's my eyeliner? But that's what we do to be successful, right? She says, I don't think it's you. So she went back to Brown University, and I came back to Kansas. And she sent me the book Stone Butch Blues. That book changed my life. First of all, it reminded me that I am not the only one. And second of all, it empowered me to live my life completely authentically. So I threw out all my girl clothes, I cut my hair, and I went back to calling myself Jay. I had a girlfriend that was pretty internet savvy at the time, and she found a Butch Femme listserv that I started talking to people. And she and I attended our first Butch Femme gathering in Dallas, Texas that year. Upon meeting these people, once again, I was home. These were my people. I'd missed them so much. Wow, it reminded me so much that I love them and I feel so comfortable with them. And it also taught me that it's probably time to get out of Kansas. So I organized my life to move. It's my last night in town. My coworkers take me out for drinks. There was this guy there, big guy, who'd been talking to some of my coworkers, and I'd interacted with him. He was fine. But as the bar filled up and the drinks were flowing, somewhere in the evening he motioned to me to lean in like he wanted to tell me something. So I leaned in, and bam, he punched me right in the face. Now, first of all, let me tell you how big this dude was. The next day I had a bruise all the way from here up to here with knuckle marks. So bam, he punches me right in the face, and I stagger backwards, but I don't fall down. And I picked up a pool cue, because this fool doesn't know I'm third grade fight club. I'm going to whoop his ass. At the same time, one of my friends jumps up and says, what did you hit her for? And this guy looks at her and looks at me, and recognition dawns on his face that he just punched a woman square in the face. He falls to his knees and starts sobbing. Now, I don't know about y'all, but where I come from, you can't just clock somebody with a pool cue who's sobbing like a baby. So I put my pool cue down and we left. But for me, that was the beginning of a lot of lessons that I've learned around the differences in how men get treated in the world versus women. See, it was okay with him to punch me in the face as long as he thought I was a guy, and especially if he thought I was a fag. But it's not okay to punch a woman in the face. At least not in a crowded bar. So in 1999, I moved to Washington, D.C. I almost immediately, through my internet connections, got connected with the Butch Femme trans community. And it was amazing. I mean, the fact that there were more than 4 of us was a great start. And pretty soon thereafter, I connected with a group of guys that had a support group. They called themselves the DCATS, the DC Area Trans Masculine Society. Shout out to my DCATS brothers. That group is still going strong. There's like over 150 members now. But I was one of the first 13 guys that got together. And every time we'd get together, one of them had started testosterone or had their breasts removed or were starting to get their beard in. Frankly, I was jealous. So I sought out another therapist, and she and I worked together and figured out that there were 2 big issues for me in the way of going ahead and deciding to transition. The first one was my family. I'd put them through a lot. But we decided through good communication and me showing up a lot, they could probably handle it. The second one was I didn't want to lose my dyke card. And I was serious about that. I had been cut my teeth on being a lesbian. And it was important to me. And unlike my other trans brothers, who were either disgusted by or dysphoric about their genitalia, I love my vagina. And we'd always had a great relationship. Now that was not an issue. So I decided that I was going to figure out a way to just be a really out transgender person, and then people would understand that I was part woman. So, April 1st, 2001, I took my first shot of testosterone. Genitals female, gender identity, gender queer. Now, the doctors told me that my ovaries were going to atrophy and shut down, and I was going to go through puberty like you cisgender men did at the age of 14. Now, my trans friends told me about the horniness, and everybody knows a 14-year-old boy's horny, but you don't know things until you really experience them. I mean, you've probably figured out that I was loathsome of my own breasts. I mean, they ruined my football career and completely took me out of Fight Club. But boy, once I started testosterone, I was happy to have a pair to play with. That worked out really well for me until they got hairy. I've just never been into hippie titty, sorry. Now, the second thing that happens that you notice almost immediately on testosterone that no doctor is ever going to tell you about is clit growth. Clit growth. You see, the male and female body are actually very similar. In utero, we all start out as female until that Y chromosome comes in. And then the little clitoris turns into a penis, and the labia majora turn into a scrotum. So when a female-bodied human goes on testosterone, all the body fat shifts, and well, let me just tell you how it happened to me. I was driving down the road one day and probably having a lot of sex thoughts, because once you start testosterone, it's always just right there. Sex thoughts, sex thoughts, sex thoughts, sex thoughts, sex thoughts, sex thoughts. And then I noticed I felt something different in my pants. So I reached down there, and I was a little shocked, because what I felt was a completely erect penis, only this big. And that's when I met my dicklet. Not a bad deal at all. Now they tell you that once you go on testosterone, it takes 7 years, like a guy from 14 to 21, it takes 7 years for everything to happen. But it seems like things just happen almost overnight. I mean, it seemed like I woke up one day and I had no hair here, and it was on my ass. That was disturbing to me. See, I didn't even sleep with boys, so I didn't know about that. But I said something to my wife about it. She said, it's no big deal. Men have hairy asses. But I'm like, should I be able to grab this? This is weird for me. That's when she started calling me fur pants. And that's also when I have to admit, I'm embarrassed to acknowledge it, but, well, ladies, I know we'd like to just think that men are nasty, and they are. I mean, why do you pee on the floor? Really? Everywhere, always peeing on the floor. But here's the deal. I even am a very tidy person, but I found that even I fell prey to that skid mark issue. See, ladies, when you have a hairy ass crack, cleanliness is elusive. In fact, gentlemen, let me help you out here. I don't care if you wipe until your ass is bloody. If 10 minutes later you feel itchy ass, do not scratch it. Get back into the bathroom and clean that up, because, brother, you got a dingleberry on a hair in your ass crack. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. I can't reiterate enough how important it was to me that people understood that I was part woman. And it wasn't just about my fondness for my own vagina, but I had a strong, rich lesbian history. I mean, I cut my teeth on feminist gatherings, women-only spaces, lesbian potlucks. My go-to karaoke song was I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. So it was important to me. So everywhere I went, I came out, and I came out, and I came out, and I came out. But people just forgot, and they forgot, and they forgot. So like it or not, I was an undercover white guy. The first time, and the most vivid time I remember being undercover, was when I went back to my hometown. Unfortunately, it was because a tragedy had befallen my family. My sister-in-law had been diagnosed with cancer and given just 6 months to live. A few days before we knew she was going to die and she was in hospice at home, my sisters and I came back early to help my brother and the kids with meals and things like that. You know, things women do in occasions like that. Being in my hometown IGA was such a trip. People would walk right past me that I went to school with, that were my teachers. They would have expected me to say hello, but they didn't know who I was. I mean, imagine, it's like Opie goes back to Mayberry as Ophelia, and even Barney doesn't recognize her. It was crazy. Now, the interesting thing about being from a big family, though, at least with mine, is there's a strong family resemblance. If you line up all my siblings, we basically look like the same person with different hair. And so people were confused. They could tell that I fit in the family, but they couldn't tell where. So they would always, if they did come talk to me, say, "Which one are you? Which one are you?" We went to high school together. I'm Janet. I go by Jay now. Oh, well, you make a much better looking dude than you did a girl. Okay, thanks. Honey, which one are you? Oh, ma'am, I'm Oni and Larry's youngest. I'm Janet. I go by Jay now. Oh, where's your mother? Which one are you? Well, you used to babysit me. I'm Janet. I go by Jay now. I'm serious. That's what she did. It's funny, too, because that lady, every time I go home for a wedding or a funeral, she's usually working the church serving line. And she just pretends I don't exist. She just looks right past me. Makes me feel really warm and loved up inside all the time. I didn't get all bad reactions. I had a couple of really positive ones. My oldest brother saw me for the first time in like 2 years. And as soon as he saw me, he said, "Wow, I had no idea you were as uncomfortable in your skin as you were until I see how comfortable you are now." And I was feeling more comfortable. I realized I was walking taller. That was pretty cool. The second one was at the graveside. I saw her coming and it made me nervous. This woman has known me my whole life. She whispered to me, "Janet," and I just nodded. And she pulled me into her and held me. That woman held me like she'd known me her whole life. She held me like nothing had ever changed. And she held me like somebody who had just experienced a significant loss in their life. You know, my experience is that there are a few of those pointy, scrunched up face ladies in the world, but there's a lot more Mary Johnsons. And I'm really grateful for that. Really grateful. In 2003, I had my breasts removed and my chest reconstructed. It was just about the best day of my life. Only to be topped later when I got to not legally marry the love of my life and my best friend. You see, back then, 2 vaginas weren't allowed to get married, but we just had a big fat gay wedding anyway and had a blast. She has always been the best decision I ever made in my life and is consistently the best thing in my life. When I would come out to people after being undercover to them, they would often say things to me like, "I knew something was up. You can't be a regular guy. No regular guy talks about how much he loves his wife that much." This is the part in the story where if you were watching a movie, you would see a montage. The montage would be me and my wife, madly in love, exploring Washington, D.C. and the butch femme trans community, having a blast. We were the one couple that had a house, so we would host all the parties. You would see me getting into personal development big time and going to coaching school and becoming a coach and starting my own business. And we would have a hilarity reel of all the times that I would come out and come out and come out and come out, and people would forget and they'd forget, and they'd forget, and they'd forget, and they'd forget, until we'd land in my mother's living room. She's watching Oprah, and Oprah has Dr. Oz on. My brother and I are visiting from back east, and we're in the kitchen. Boys, get in here. What's going on, Mom? This doctor says you need to get your prostate checked every year. Are you getting checked? Mom, I don't have a prostate, I have ovaries. Oh my God, I forgot. And forgetting, and forgetting, and forgetting. In 2007, my siblings and I had a conference call regarding my mother's health. The result of that call ended in my brother and my wife and I moving back to Kansas, a sister from Chicago moving back to the area, and other siblings were already here. Essentially, we circled the wagons. She was 87 years old and had dementia, and it was our turn to take care of her. Now, moving back to Kansas was not an easy choice. We were in the Washington, D.C. area, one of the most diverse cities in the world, and we were in a huge butch, femme, trans community. And my wife likes to do research, so we knew that we were moving back to a town that was 87% white and that had no trans community that we knew of. And family comes first. So in 2007, we moved back to Kansas. And believe me, the forgetting got worse. My wife and I were trying to have kids at the time, and she couldn't really tell anybody about it because she would always be met with the most insensitive comments. Things like, I bet you're having fun trying. Sure, if you think holding my wife's legs in the air after inserting her with a syringe full of my brother's sperm is sexy time, then you bet we're having a good time trying. Thanks, straight people. Yeah. In 2009, the town we moved to was trying to decide whether they would add gender identity to the Human Rights Ordinance. And my wife and I were interviewed, and we were on the front page of the paper. I thought, this is fantastic. I will be out to the whole town. Everyone will automatically know. You would be amazed how many people don't read the paper. My wife and I gave up on having our own kids, and around that time we got introduced to foster care. And we thought that way we could fulfill our commitment to have a family and still contribute to our community. So we took our classes and became foster parents. I automatically became the dad. Everywhere I went, I was the father, and now I was the dad. And I wasn't having conversations about my gender identity. We were just trying to get these kids into safe places. Our kids came to us almost exactly at the same time that my mom died. So while I'm grieving this bond that I lost with my mother, I'm watching these two babies almost instantaneously bond with my wife as their mommy. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. In my mind, it was supposed to be more like Heather has two mommies, and now I'm the dad. And I thought that when I had kids come into my life, my classic female training would kick in, and what would come out of me would be my mom. My sweet, grateful, gracious mom. I mean, the harshest thing she ever said to me was, now listen here, lamb chop. But instead, what came out of me was my dad. While my dad was a great community member, he could be kind of mean and scary. So I found myself saying things like, you want to wear your ass for a hat? And then wondering why these 3-year-olds were terrified of me. Finally, when my classic female training did kick in, it was around perfectionism and trying to get it all right. Now, luckily, my job as a transformational coach is to transform anything that's in my way of my happiness and fulfillment and success. So I transformed it, and then I wrote a book about it. I started teaching progress, not perfection. I started hosting seminars for women and teaching straight women how to hold space for one another. I transformed it, and my classic female training kicked in. But what was funny to me was, instead of everybody understanding that I was classically female trained because I'd been a woman, instead, they just gave me big kudos for being such a good daddy and doing all those things. Gold stars. Yeah, classically trained. What? Once we had our kids and things kicked in, I wasn't out as much. I mean, we were busy. We were doing play dates and doing kid stuff and meeting parents, and my gender identity was not the topic of conversation. So I wasn't out there speaking as much and doing as much. And then in 2013, one of my best friends stepped into a bathtub and blew his head off. Now, if you're a transgender person and you don't know someone who's died by suicide, you probably haven't been out very long. And as a leader in the trans queer community, I am constantly privy to the violence, to the suicides, to the depression, all of it. But I'd learned over time to kind of steel myself from that. Because if I didn't, I'd be sad and depressed all the time. But this one, he was one of mine. He was one of the 13. And it wasn't supposed to go like that. But when I get sad, I get busy. So I hooked up with a couple of other trans activists, and we started going to small towns all over Kansas doing conferences and speaking. I gave my story to the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles, and they started telling it all over the country. And I started hearing from suicidal trans youth. When they would meet me, they would say, "You're the only old trans guy we know." I knew what they were saying. They were desperate to see themselves in a future. I started coaching trans parents, doing anything I could for trans youth. I couldn't save him, but I did save a few. At this time, I'm coming up almost on 50 years old, and I think, I need to get this 50-year-old body in shape. I want to be in shape at 50. So I talked to my workout buddy, and we decided that by the time I'm 50, I want to be able to do 50 push-ups. So sure enough, by the time I turned 50, I could do 50 push-ups and 1 pull-up, which was a lot for this show choir girl. So I'm 50 years old now. The testosterone is full on. I have a big, thick, bright red beard with a silver streak here. I'm starting to get hit on in public by both men and women. I think this is a time when you cisgender guys go buy a Mustang. So here I am, the most virile I've ever been, and I'm trying to tell women all this experience I have of sexism and how they can't see it, but I'm like a dog whistle that no one can hear. And then in 2017, the Me Too movement hit Twitter. Now at the time, I'm coaching women exclusively, ages 70 to 35. And every single one of them has a Me Too story. Every single one of them. Then all my trans guys start popping up on Facebook with their Me Too stories. And then I start to remember. I remember all the times that guys put their hands down my pants, just because. I remember all the conversations I had with guys that if I just had their special cock, I wouldn't be a lesbian. And I remembered something I hadn't remembered before. It was after my boyfriend broke up with me, but before my suicide attempt. It was the spring concert of my junior year. And I'm standing there about to go on stage, and I feel a hard cock press up against my ass. He's cute, and he's a senior. Does he like me? Now see, I'd already seen Jennifer Beals dance across the screen in Flashdance, so I knew I was going straight to hell. And I could use some boy attention at this time. So I did the old reach around, and he did the reach around, and we fooled around for a little bit backstage, and then we had to go on. Now, how he did Hello Dolly with a heart on, I will never know. After the show at the cast party, I looked for him. I thought, maybe he likes me and, we could hook up. Yeah, he didn't. He didn't like me. He just did what every 17-year-old boy would do when they see a fat ass in a skirt. Lean in. Then I thought, wait a minute, I'm Facebook friends with this guy. Should I, say something to him? I mean, I don't want to be a dick, but I know he's got a 23-year-old daughter by now, and we all know that the statistics tell us she's at least been harassed, if not worse. And it's a time of awareness, and now I shouldn't say anything. No, you should. No, you shouldn't. No, you should. No, you shouldn't. Okay, so I typed him a note, and I told him all of that. You know, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. I just wanted you to know, I know you've got a daughter. It's a time when we're raising awareness in our country about these things, and you know, when that incident happened backstage your senior year, I was a suicidal young lesbian, and it didn't help me. Hit send. Okay, time to go back to work. Oh shit, there's dots. He's typing me back right now. He typed me back 5 words. Will you please forgive me? Wow. Yeah. Not only do I forgive you, but I honor you and I respect you. Because every single woman I know has a Me Too story, yet every guy I know is a not me, and the math doesn't add up, people. And there was such sick shit happening in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Somebody's got to be responsible for this, and he's willing to take responsibility. You know what? And so am I. There were at least 2 girls in my high school that had trains pulled on them. Did I think, how sick are those boys? No. I gossiped about those girls with other girls. And did I ever think how depraved these young men were who would want to have sex with a passed out girl? No. I just ate all that guilt and shame. And when I was a young lesbian trying to figure out how to get with other girls, I paid attention to what boys were doing and classic male training. And whether we want to admit it or not, part of classic male training is to assert power over the female species. But this guy just took responsibility. Something new happened here. I was excited. So I bounded up the steps to tell my wife what had happened. When I get to the steps, there's a candle burning that I hadn't ever smelled before, and flash, I'm in that room again. Damn it. Flash, she's picking me up out of the bed. Damn it. This time, I put my hand down on the counter. I could feel the cool on my hand. And I planted my feet, and I look around the room. There's the coffee pot. There's my kids' homework. There's a rolling pin. And I'm safe. And I breathe. And I know I'm safe. I had those flashes for the next couple of weeks after that. So I went to, you might imagine that I didn't go see a therapist because it might surprise you to know that I have lots of friends that are therapists. So I took one of my therapist friends out for coffee. And I told her, I'm one of the most virile times of my life, and now I'm having flashbacks. Should I go see a therapist again? She asked me what I did when they happened. I told her, I find my feet, I breathe, put my hand on the counter, and I feel things. And I look around the room, and I get myself here in this moment and safe. She said, Jay, that's all they're going to do for you. You have tools. Oh, I have tools. Awesome. Genital's female. Gender identity, I don't know. It was just a month later that I was speaking in one of the small towns around Kansas, and oddly enough, it happened to be close to my hometown. And I was given the same speech I always do about how I don't fit into this box and I don't fit into that box. When I stepped off the stage, I just knew. I need to start using they, them pronouns. I don't fit into their boxes. I need to use they, them pronouns. I'm a gender non-conforming person, and I use they, them pronouns. And I know for some of you that's really confusing, because if they are coming to dinner, how many of them are there? And I really actually love the pronoun Z. That's another one you can always use with me. You can use the pronoun Z. But I also know that it kind of sounds like you're trying to do a fake French accent. Where's Jay? Z went to the store. But those are my pronouns. It was about a month or so later that I thought, I'm using they, them pronouns. I identify as a gender non-conforming person, non-binary now. Why do I need to be on testosterone? I don't need that. So July 5th, 2018, I took my last shot of testosterone. About 6 weeks later, I was delivering a keynote speech in a workshop for a feminist summer camp. It was a women's only summer camp. It was the first women's only space that I had been in that I didn't create in 20 years. These women knew I was a gender non-conforming human. They were fantastic about that. They understood that I was masculine expressed, and I was the only one there who was masculine expressed. I had been at this summer camp with over 100 women for over 24 hours before I realized that I had not had one sexual thought about them. Because remember, on testosterone, sexual thought, always right there. It was gone. And instead was this juicy, awesome space that I got to be with them. And it was fantastic. I was starting to get my woman brain back. I came home about a month later. Jessica and I were talking. She was teasing me about the fact that my body's probably confused, and she's an alpha cow, so I'll probably just start my period right after her. She's an evil woman. Because, yes, literally the day after she started hers, here comes mine. At some point I had told people that maybe if that happened, I would go back on testosterone. But after starting to get my woman brain back, no way. And after all, right, menstrual cycles, women, it's just stuff we deal with, right? I mean, it's just part of being a woman. No big deal. I can handle that. Just because it's been 18 years, no problem. I got this. So I go into the bathroom. My wife uses generic tampons. She's environmentally conscious, so she uses the cardboard applicators. She likes the generic ones. She says they fit her body better. So I'm like, cool, I can handle this. So I go in. Here's the first thing I forgot. Labia pinch. Wow. Okay. So, gentlemen, I know you don't understand this, but to insert a tampon, you have to slide one piece of cardboard through another piece of cardboard. And if your labia minora gets pinched in there, damn, okay? It hurts. Wow. I forgot all about that. So I'm like, oh, ow, okay, all right, okay, now I can do this, no problems. Okay, I get it in. Should I taste that? Like, wow. Holy smokes, I earned my Red Wings at 19. I know that flavor, so wow. Turns out those tampons didn't fit me very well. So I had to get my own. I use Lola.com. They deliver them right to my house. You know, just like when you go on testosterone, and it seems like things happen overnight, it was kind of like that when I went off testosterone. It was like I wake up one day and my pants don't fit. I have to go shopping, and then I'm reminded that man with camel toe is not a good look. And then one day I look down and like there's just no hair on my body. It's like all gone. I'm like, honey, look, no fur pants. It's crazy. My wife has always identified as bisexual, but when my curves came back and all the hair fell off my body, given how much she's touching me, I think she's lesbian leaning. It's interesting because when I first started, knowing that I was going to go off testosterone and started sharing with people, the person they were concerned about the most was my wife. And they would say, but what about your wife? And I was confused by that. So, in my good, polite Midwestern way, I would just say, she just loves the person. And they'd say, oh, she just loves the person. The truth is she's been eating my pussy for 18 years, right? Like, she's not going to wake up one day and be like, oh my God, there's a woman in my bed. So I'm a gender non-conforming person, non-binary, and I use they, them pronouns. And notice that this is the second time that I'm bringing that up. The young trans people, when they want you to call them by a specific name or they give you their pronouns, especially if they've done it more than once, if you continue to misgender them, they call that a microaggression. Now what that means is they think that you're being aggressive with them on a micro scale. Now for me, that's like taking a plastic cocktail sword to a fight with a Ninja Turtle. I'm a hero in a half shell, so that stuff doesn't bother me. But I will let you know that I notice. And if I choose to correct you, I feel a little scared and vulnerable every time, especially if you're in business with me. You know, I just realized I didn't finish telling you about what happened with my sister-in-law. The day she died, my sisters and I were there. All 6 of her children went into the room with her, with my brother, to say their last goodbyes. And when my brother came out first, he fell into the arms of my older sister there. And then one of my nieces came out, and she fell into the arms of my other sister. And then my nephew came out. This is a child I've used to babysit since he was 4. Now he's 6'2" and weighs 190 pounds. And he fell into my arms sobbing. And as I'm holding him there, I had this thought. Am I his Aunt Janet or his Uncle Jay? And I knew in that moment that I was his Aunt Janet, and because if I had been born a male, I wouldn't be there. Because what you all call gender are just classic training and expected behavior. And my brothers weren't expected to be there. In fact, they didn't even consider it. And my sisters, we didn't give it a second thought. We knew we were going to be there. Which is why, if you make me pick a box, I'll pick female every time. Because I am classically trained female, and I am grateful for it. Now, by now, I hope you figured out that genitals are not gender. But let me throw you a little curveball. First of all, cis means same. So if you are someone who is born a man and you think of yourself as a man and you have a penis, then you are a cisgendered male. If you are born with female genitalia and you think of yourself as a woman, you are a cisgendered woman. So just as a show of hands, how many cisgender people we have in the room tonight? Quite a few of you. Awesome. Now, of you cisgender people, how many of you consider yourself straight and or heterosexual? Raise your hands. All right, queer people, you might want to just go get another drink. I've worked with this population for a long time. We could be here a minute. So I know you all cis-het people think you're the only ones here. But the truth is that 1.7% of the population is born intersexed. Now, intersex people are born with over 30 different varieties of expression in their chromosomes and genitals. Now, that 1.7% of the population may not seem like a lot, but it's the same percentage of people that are born with red hair. Yeah. And I don't mind if you go on ahead with your genital reveal parties, but what I want to know is, what color does an intersex baby get? Could we make it lavender? And could you be as excited about having a little intersex baby as you are a little lavender baby as you are a blue or pink baby? Now here's the curveball. Even those little intersex genital babies, those little lavender babies, that's not their gender. Those little intersex babies may grow up to be fully pink or fully blue. So the truth is that these intersex babies, their genitals are not their gender, and hopefully by now you've discovered that my genitals are pink. Really soft, luscious pink. But I'm purple, and I don't fit into your boxes. I'm a Maddie to my kids. I'm a Butch and a husband to my wife and my Fen. I'm purple, and I don't fit into your boxes. In fact, I wrote a song about it. Want to hear it?
Yes.
Here it goes. I am a woman with a beard and no tits, or a man with a vagina and a great big clit. Either way, I don't fit in your boxes. Either way, I don't fit in your boxes. Like it? Yeah, pretty good. So thanks for attending the Gender Reveal Party. I hope you've enjoyed tonight. I hope you've learned something. No matter what, now you know the next time you get invited to one of those gender reveal parties or you see that shit on Facebook, you know what to do. Hashtag genital reveal. Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The bar's open until 10. I hope you stay and have a beer with me.